Hello there. Happy Monday evening, July 11th. Happy 7-Eleven day to basically everyone. And what a a bad day, I should say, for the city of Pittsburgh. First Heinz Field, the name change, and then obviously the big thing that we're going to talk about on today's show, that Evgeni Malkin is going to test free agency, which I would say more than likely that he is probably going to be playing on another team next year. I'm going to get all into that in the first segment, probably the second segment as well. Can go into, what happens if he does leave, who is potentially going to replace him. Is there anyone that can actually replace him? And so much more for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. It's going to be a whirlwind to say the least, but let's jump right into it. I'm going to give all my thoughts and my analysis on this very upsetting situation.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. I was about to record the show about 30 minutes ago. Then all of a sudden my poor puppy over here, who has just been sick like something for the last 4 days, had an accident in his crate. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't know what's going on with him, but I think that just goes to show what he thinks of the Evgeni Malkin Pittsburgh Penguins stuff. And let's jump right into it. So, this day starts out fine. You get the reports that Frank Saravalli saying that they've upped it to 4 years. Pierre LeBrun saying that they've made progress. I've been saying to myself, okay, maybe a deal could be coming on Tuesday. It's all looking, fine and dandy and all this stuff. But all of a sudden, Darren Dreger just comes out with his big breaking news. And, originally when I first started reading, I'm like, oh my God, here's the contract agreement. And it's the complete opposite. Evgeni Malkin is going to test free agency for the first time in his career on Wednesday. And then you just have, the whole back and forth. Obviously, Penguins Twitter turned into a war zone. And it's probably going to be a war zone for the rest of this week, to be honest with you all. And, overall, when I sit back, when I really think about this stuff, everyone in these negotiations is just stupid. It should never have come to this point. I am putting the blame on everyone. Ron Hextall, Brian Burke, JP Barry, and Evgeni Malkin. All four of them. It's ridiculous that it's come to this point where one of the 4 to 5 greatest players to ever play for this franchise is going to test the market. I don't care what team it is. No player of that magnitude should ever be allowed to test the market. And I definitely would say I'm more mad at the front office because you've had 2 months to do this. Full stop. You extended Jeff Carter during the season, which was pathetic and hilarious at the same time. You decided to extend Brian Rust first, which was even weirder. Then you decided to extend Casey DeSmith, which, okay, whatever. Then you get Chris Letang, which is fine because, he should be the bigger priority over Evgeni Malkin, and that's no slight to him. And then obviously Gino is going to feel like, wow, where am I? And that leads to Rob Rossi writing his piece for The Athletic. He should have been higher up on the priority list. And when you screw around with this kind of player, he's going to get ticked off. And, they're about to pay the price for it when he goes to free agency and when he gets a lot of money. And then from Malkin's perspective, I understand why he's doing what he's doing, but I'm also a bit miffed at him because, he said during his press conference at the end of the season, oh yeah, money, I'm a rich guy, money doesn't mean much for me and all this stuff. I want to play for 3 more years. Okay. So you said 3 years, which would go to the end of Sidney Crosby's contract. They offer you a 3-year deal for $6 million per. Maybe they can up it if they wish. You decline that. Reportedly, Mike DeFabo is saying that they upped the offer to 4 times 6.1. 6.1 is the same AAV that Chris Letang does. You decline that, and it's like, okay, what are you really looking for here in this deal? I mean, excuse me, are you looking for something that's over 7 million? Are you looking for 7.5? You know, I know Rob Rossi is saying the opposite, that, you know, they discussed a 4-year term, but there was never an offer on the table. So you kind of have a little bit of a source off there. But, you know, part of this just feels really weird because two sides are saying two completely different things. And, you know, it's ridiculous. It all comes back to my original point of how awful it is that it even came to this point. And, you know, we can talk about Hextall and them lowballing and all this other stuff. And, you know, if DeFabo is wrong with his report and Rossi is right with his 3 times 6, then, you know, that could be a fireable offense for Hextall and Burke because there's no reason to really not go to a 4th year. You know, it's completely nonsensical that you can literally sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to stand firm to this because I believe this, and, you know, an extra year is really going to screw us up when we're going to be bad at that point. And, you know, honestly, who really cares at that point? Because Sid is just going to be 40 years old and he's going to retire, you know, in 2025, 2026. You know, it's just like how can the Penguins ownership sit here and accept this? I mean, I read today from Josh Ewing, The Athletic. He said Hextall feels, you know, the pressure to get this done because the ownership wants all 3 of these players to retire. So the fact that, you know, Evgeni Malkin is probably not going to retire here now, that's going to leave, I think, a sour taste in everyone's mouth, fans, team executives, players, you know, everyone regarding the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. You know, maybe part of this, you know, I'm probably going for a conspiracy theory here. Maybe part of this is a play by JP Barry to be like, hey, you know, now you see what the fans are saying, Ron, why don't we give this another go? And then maybe they come to a deal. I'm skeptical of that, but, you know, I guess you never know. This just reeks of people that, you know, they all waited too long to really get down to business, especially Ron Hextall and Brian Burke. And now they're especially paying the price because he's going to get quite a few, I think, decent offers on the free agent market. You know, maybe, you know, the same thing happens with Gabriel Landeskog last year where he fielded some offers in free agency. One of them was the Avalanche when he put up a 7x7 to him. He fielded some others, which I think were around the same length. And he went back to Colorado. You know, he said he was going to test free agency as fans got nervous, and then he ended up going back to them. And obviously they won the Stanley Cup this year. Maybe that happens here. Again, I am a little bit skeptical, but, you know, I can't imagine how everyone in the Penguins are feeling right now, especially someone like Sidney Crosby. I mean, he said so many times it's me and Gino. You know, and he's been reportedly pushing very hard for the Penguins to get this done. Chris Letang, he's also been pushing to get this done. He said it numerous times at his press conference during the NHL draft that, you know, he wants to retire with these other 2 players. He knows how much Gino has meant to the franchise. So to only potentially see 2 of them retire here of the core, it's going to look really, really weird. It's just, you know, this again, I've probably said this for the 500 times already on this episode, but, you know, it just feels like something that could have been very avoidable, and all parties involved. You know, it's just, it's not right to me. You know, I feel sick to my stomach about it as someone who has watched this team for basically 20 years. At this point, you know, it's something that easily should have been resolved either after the season or, you know, about a month ago or something like that. And the fact that there's an opportunity for him to potentially go to somewhere like Washington or New York and really stick it to the Penguins, you know, that makes it even more sick. So, yeah, Ron Hextall, if you know, this is on you. Brian Burke, this is on you. Evgeni Malkin, this is also partly on you for, you know, saying that, you know, you're not really that concerned about money, but yet reportedly If Mike DeFabo was right, they had a 4 times $6.1 million offer on the table, which is very fair. And I also get where the Penguins, that's the thing. I get where each side is coming from. With the Penguins, I know they are hesitant with him because of the injuries, his knee, the age. They hope that he doesn't turn into just a player who puts up 30 points in 82 games. I get it. But he's coming off a point per game year. And then from Malkin's side, I understand how he's feeling right now. Maybe he's feeling, lowballed. He wasn't at the top of the pecking order in terms of getting extended. I totally get that. And he has every right to go out there and see what he can get on the open market. He's a free agent. I think almost any player, if they want to, they can, and they deserve to potentially see what they can get, even though it definitely hurts me. I know I just said it shouldn't get to this point, but, part of me also feels like, Gino, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for him. This is the last time he's going to get paid for his NHL career. So, also why wouldn't he want to go to the free agent market? And again, he is going to get a lot of money from someone. Maybe it's 4 times 7, maybe it's 3 times 7.5, 3 times 8, but there are going to be teams that are going to be more than happy to outbid the Penguins with this. So that wraps up this first segment of today's episode. I'm definitely just feeling gutted about it. I feel sick to my stomach. But this is the world we're living in right now, and I think people are just going to have to start accepting that there's a very very good chance that Evgeni Malkin is not going to be on this team next year. Now, our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because, didn't have time to work out in the morning. I wanted some more energy when I get up. I wanted better gut health. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics to help you start your day right. A special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and your aging. All of those things. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It supports better sleep quality and recovery. Also supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product irritations and third-party testing. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. They have over 7,000 5-star reviews. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. And that's it. There's no need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow this show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So obviously I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about, what's the Penguins plans now? And, to be frank with you guys, I don't know. I know I put a tweet out, it would be so Ron Hextall to basically just go out, sign Vinny Trocheck to a 6x6 deal and be like, hey guys, we made an attempt to replace Evgeni Malkin and all this other nonsense that you would hear when it goes into that deal. And also, I'll just say this, that will be a horrendous deal. Just saying, this entire thing is so freaking bizarre, to say the least, but that would not be good. I think Vinny Trocheck is a good player, but 50 points, 80 games, is that someone that's worth $6 million per? Probably not. Again, you're not going to get Nazem Kadri. He's going to get a lot of money. Obviously, there's the JT Miller stuff out there, and I've heard through the grapevine that he wants to be a Pittsburgh Penguin. That's not an opinion. That's something that I have actually heard through the grapevine a little bit. So maybe you could trade for him, but then you have to sign him to an extension and you have to give up stuff to get him. So are you really going to go through with that? You got Claude Giroux out there. That would be hilarious, especially if like Malkin went to like Washington or New York or Carolina and say, you know, the Penguins do sign Giroux. That's just a total, I'm not even calling it like a galaxy brain thing. It's just something that you know, out of a different universe, to be honest. It would make sense because I do think Giroux is a very serviceable player. And of the free agents out there that the Penguins can afford with the $15 million in salary cap space right now, I definitely think they could sign him. But that's also if Giroux is willing to go to Pittsburgh. You know, obviously the Philadelphia Flyer Pittsburgh Penguin rivalry is very real still. So, you know, could it be like something like Marc-Andre Fleury? You know, I'm not really sure, but you know, that would be an option. They can maybe explore other trade opportunities. I think someone DM'd me today asking me about like Patrick Kane of Chicago. I don't see that happening. A, the Penguins are not going to be able to take on that cap hit, and B, I don't think it's I just don't think it's feasible. Even with their salary, even with $15 million in salary cap space, why are you trading for that kind of player when you also have other needs at forward too? So that really doesn't make any sense to me. You know, again, I don't know, man, but Gino's your best bet in free agency. I really don't get why the Penguins, you know, if the reports from Rob Rossi and a couple others are true, why they are so insistent on this potential 3-year term. I just, you know, what is a 4th year? You know, what is it really going to do? Oh, wow, you staying for that year. Who cares? Seriously, who cares? We all know the team is going to flat out stink at that point. You can probably just LTI him anyway if he's really banged up at that point. And, you know, again, I understand the concerns with the age and the knees, but I'll say it again. I think Evgeni Malkin is better than any realistic option that they are looking at on the open market. And honestly, he's probably going to be cheaper too. You know, I joke about the Vinny Trocheck 6x6 thing, but in my head, I think he could get more than that. Would it really surprise anyone if he gets 6.5 to 7 million per? It's silly season here, Yins. There's a lot of stupid money that's thrown out on free agent frenzy day, which of course is coming up here in less than 48 hours. So I don't think anyone should be surprised if that is indeed the case. So I will continue to die on that hill. That should have been done by now. He's your best bet in terms of all the free agent options, when you look at centers and wingers who can play center, even when you look at trade options with JT Miller, because you maybe only get 1 year out of him at that point. And then you're like, wow, what if he walks next year? And then you're really screwed because you gave up all those assets to get him, however much Vancouver wants in return. You only get 1 year out of him, and then he potentially walks. And yes, I know I just said that I've heard through the grapevine that he wants to be in Pittsburgh. So yeah, an extension could happen. But, you know, with this regime, there is no guarantee. So I'll leave you all with that. And also, you know, do you all have confidence that Hextall and Burke are going to be the ones to really do well over this next week? I don't. I don't at all. Sure, they've gotten good value on Brian Rust. Gotten good value on Chris Letang. Casey DeSmith's contract is whatever. Made some decent free agent signings last year, but, you know, the Jeff Carter contract, the Jared McCann situation, all this other stuff adds up, and it's just like, you know, what you have is maybe an average to a below average general manager who is going to make a lot of people mad in less than 48 hours. You know, when he is announced at games at PBJ Paints Arena, you are probably going to hear a deafening amount of boos. They are going to be ridiculously loud because he's going to be known for his tenure with the Penguins as the one who let Evgeni Malkin slip through his fingertips. That's what he's going to be known by. You know, will he be known for signing Chris Letang? Sure. You know, will he be known for probably having Sidney Crosby retire Penguin? Sure. But the main thing he'll be known for, I don't know if they'll ever win a Stanley Cup, so maybe he'll be known for that. But right now, I think those odds go way down if Malkin's not on this team next year. He will be known for the GM that sent Evgeni Malkin to another team. And I'll leave you all with that. As we get here into our last segment of the day, I'm going to get to the qualifying offer situations and why I think the Penguins mainly got those right with that. But before I get to that, BetOnline is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continuous source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. You can head to the website today or use your phone to learn more about the trends in action. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So Penguins, they decided to not qualify a lot of players earlier today. I will load up that tweet right here for you all. So we'll start with the ones that they did not qualify. So Jordy Bellervive, Danton Heinen, Nicholas Almari, Cam Lee, Will Riley, Alex Diorio, Justin Almeida, and Jean Drozg, I think is how you pronounce that last name. Honestly, I'm not really surprised by any of these. And most of these players are basically AHL players who are going to go on and get two-way contracts with other teams. I know people were upset that Danton Heinen was not tendered a qualifying offer, and I was at first. And so a couple of people, John Tarbett and Jason of Penguins Twitter, told me that he had ARB rights. And I will admit, I totally forgot that he did. I did not think that he had any ARB rights at this stage in his career. That is my fault. I'll take the L on that. So then when I thought about it, I'm like, okay, he's coming off almost a 20-goal season. He's going to win that arbitration case by a landslide. You know, Josh Yohe of The Athletic reported that I think he was looking at maybe $3 million on a 1 or 2 year deal, or however long they were going to try to get him at arbitration. And it's like, yeah, the Penguins, they're not going to pay that. You know, Heinen, for as good as he was last year, does anyone really think he's going to score close to 20 again next year? I would say probably not. I would probably only try to pay him $2 to $2.2 million per. 3, I think, is a bit much for him. So that said, I know he's going to be a UFA once free agency opens, but I do think there is a chance that the Penguins do circle back and they try to re-sign him because, you know, the two sides, they really weren't close before the qualifying offer deadline was in place. You know, maybe they'll be a lot closer now that he's a UFA and the Penguins can kind of, you know, do this on their terms instead of Heinen terms. And then as for Kapanen, I know people are very mad about that, but at the end of the day, it's $800K. And they can also use him as trade bait. Who knows if the Penguins are even going to sign him to a new deal? They can easily just dump him off, you know, for either salary or just in another deal to get him a fresh start. You know, maybe it's for Jesse Puljujarvi, who I've talked about a lot on this podcast. That, you know, that's a total Ken Holland kind of move. But, you know, I'm not really going to make a big deal out of it. It was a no-brainer for the Penguins to do it. I still, at this point, I don't think he's going to be on the team next year. Maybe he will be. I guess I'm a little concerned that the Penguins front office and the coaching staff feels higher about him than I do. But, you know, right now it's $800K. It was a no-brainer. You know, get over it, I think, at this point. You know, as for these other players, you know, Cam Lee, Nicholas Almari, Jordy Bellervive, you know, these are all just AHL players. They were not going to crack a spot in the Penguins lineup this year. So, you know, maybe they'll bring some of them back on two-way deals. Now, some others will probably just walk to other teams. As for the other players other than Kapanen, who they extended a qualifying offer to, Kasper Borquist, who's going overseas, so that doesn't really matter, and then defenseman P.O. Joseph. So he's going to need a new contract. That's going to come in pretty cheap, I think, in my opinion. Now, I did want to get to a few mailbag questions that some of you all did ask me a few days ago, if I can find this here on the tweets for the show. So that's going to be the end of the show today. Josh Bank goes in the East. Do you see any of the non-playoff teams rising up to capture a playoff spot? In which 22 playoff team is in danger of falling out? Great question, Josh. I would say the Islanders have probably the best chance of making the playoffs next year, but also I feel like they have to actually go out and get a scorer or two. I know they're being linked to JT Miller. I think they were being linked to David Perron now. They need more of an offensive punch up front. I know how good defensively they are, and I know Barry Trotz is gone, but I think Lane Lambert is going to step in and do a good job. Their defense is fine, and Ilya Sorokin, I think, is slowly starting to become one of the best goaltenders in hockey. So I would say the Islanders for that one. And then in terms of which 22 playoff team is in danger of falling out, I'm not sure if you meant, East or West specifically, but I guess we're just going to do the whole thing here. That's a good question, to be honest with you. Part of me kind of says Dallas, but Peter DeBoer usually gets good results with his teams at least in year one, so I might leave them in. Though, if the Flames do let Johnny Gaudreau walk, I might say the Flames because, you have over 100 points of offense to replace there. Good freaking luck replacing that. That's all I'm going to say. I think on that. And Brendan asked me, how do you feel about Nylander, Puustinen, and Poulin making a regular third line spot? Honestly, Brendan, I don't see that happening next year. I like Puustinen, and I want to see what he has at the NHL level, but I don't think he's ready for a third line role. Sam Poulin needs to show me a little bit more. And Wilkes-Barre, in my opinion, Alex Nylander, I think he's mainly an AHL guy at this point, but maybe he could show the Penguins something in training camp once that rolls around in September, but I don't think any of them will be pushing for a third line spot, in my opinion. And Alan Theodore says, which Eastern Conference team will be the most entertaining? Not in this team is fun to watch, but on and off the ice. Oh, that's going to be Philadelphia. 100%, Alan. I mean, John Tortorella, Tony DeAngelo being there, Chuck Fletcher's just, throwing stuff against the wall and hoping it sticks. That is going to be hilarious to watch on and off the ice. And I'm glad you do say the Flyers as well. I 100% agree with you there. That is going to be probably the funniest soap opera of all time there. And Edward Olesh says, could you give a quick explanation how the draft works, how many years the team has to sign the guy, what leagues we draft from, and how the rules differ? Edward, I don't have all the answers myself, but there's plenty of leagues that you can draft players from, all the Russian leagues, the other European leagues, the USHL, for instance, the Canadian Hockey League, all these other leagues, just basically any professional hockey league out there that has NHL ready players, they basically can draft from. As for how many years a team has to sign a guy, I think it's at least 2, if I'm not mistaken. And then you obviously have them under your control for, however long, 3-year entry level contract, 4-year entry level. But usually I think most of them sign to 3-year entry level deals, excuse me. And then you said how the rules differ players to go to the NHL. Yeah, honestly, Edward, most of the players that are drafted in the NHL draft, they do not go to the NHL their first year. They play on their junior teams. They go back to college before they turn pro. So yeah, some of these players, they can sign honestly whenever they want, especially if they go back to college and play on their college teams. After that, once they want to turn pro, then here comes your entry level deal. But the only players that really usually make their debut, it's some of the guys in the top 5, the top 10. Sometimes there's guys below them that make their debut, but other times, they start in the AHL, they start in their junior teams, and all this other stuff. So, unless you're like, again, a top 3 to top 5, maybe top 10 pick, chances are you're not going to be starting in the NHL your first year. It's not like the NFL where you're making like every rookie is almost like or every first round pick is expected to make like a massive impact, or, the NBA or something like that. It's kind of like baseball where, a lot of those first round picks, they have to be developed in the minors, and all that. So that'll do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I know there's a lot to get to today, but I'm not closed off to Malkin leaving yet, but it's definitely not looking good right now. Maybe he has a change of heart. He'll go like a full NFL player and be like, well, maybe he decided to go back to Pittsburgh after all, but right now it's not looking good. And again, I'm not confident that Ron Hextall is going to have a better team going into next year if Evgeni Malkin is not on it. That's what I'm going to leave for that. So again, I appreciate all of you listening to this one. I'll be back on Tuesday. Josh Yohe of The Athletic is going to join the show. You don't want to miss that. We're going to get into all of the Evgeni Malkin stuff, ask him about maybe JT Miller, Vincent Trocheck, all their free agency plans, and of course, potential trade options. As I think they do want to dump some salary before the UFA window opens at noon Eastern on Wednesday. So look for that. That's going to be dropping probably around 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So again, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you all on Tuesday.